going to go ahead and get started. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for being out here. A little bit smaller of a crowd than we've had the last two. So this is the Harbor Academy version 3, or installment 3. Our first one was finance and the history of the harbor. And then the one last time was planning and development. And this may not be as sexy as a topic, but it's one that I am really looking forward to, because in a lot of ways, I don't have to talk about maybe issues that are in the harbor as much as I can brag about my staff. And so I really look forward to sessions like tonight, because what we're going to be talking about tonight are two of the operations in the Harbor Department that really are holding up the Harbor Department and really do a lot of what you see out there in the harbor, and that's our Harbor Patrol and our maintenance. So what we're going to do tonight is just kind of explain what each one of those units do. But before I get started, I want to introduce my harbor master, who's part of my management team. And that's Gary Hertensteiner. Been with the Harbor Department 27 years. And as you likely know, I've only been here for 10 months now, so I inherited all this staff, but I really couldn't say enough good things about him. And Gary, when I start and we sit down and talk, and he starts letting the retirement word out, it's like whoa. Don't talk about retirement yet, but he has been around for a lot of years, and he's come up through the ranks, does a great job, and as I said, he's part of my management team. I've also got our supervisors out here, and I'm going to introduce them. So at Harbor Patrol, I've got Sergeant Dan Smock. Dan. He's been with the department for 14 years. Andy Warner's another sergeant with Harbor Patrol. And he's also been with the Harbor Department for 14 years. And on the maintenance side, we've got John Sedlak. Sorry about that, John. He's been here 14 years. You guys all started the same year. And the other supervisor of maintenance is Serafin Lopez, and he's been with us for 22 years. So as you can see, our supervisory staff's been around here a long time, and they really do great things. And hopefully you get some information about what they do tonight, and we can answer any questions that you may have. So when we talk about the Harbor Department and what we do, the Channel Islands Harbor, and going back to when I did the history 2 sessions ago, was developed in the mid-1960s, and it runs from the mouth of the harbor all the way up to Channel Islands Boulevard Bridge, and that's the harbor as it's defined. That's the harbor that was originally built, and that's the harbor that we are responsible for. And I'll get into a little bit about Harbor Patrol and what they do north of the bridge at the end of the presentation. But by and large, when we talk about what our Harbor Patrol and our maintenance does, it takes care of everything that's south of the bridge. And when we develop the harbor, if you went to the development session, you heard that a lot of our development was private developers coming in and building out the land and the marinas in the harbor. So most of the harbors run under leases, and as part of those leases, they're responsible for their own maintenance. So what we do is our maintenance guys, they'll back them up if they need them, but by and large, they're maintaining everything that's under lease themselves. But there are still public areas. We actually run ourselves 2 marinas, 2 small marinas. The commercial fishing marina over by the Emporium Landing. We run and I don't have a light because it doesn't work on the screen. But a commercial fishing marina that's next to the Emporium Landing. And then we run the small craft marina, which is Long Victoria, over by the launch ramp. And we also maintain the docks by the sport fishing, by the Cisco sport fishing. So there are docks that are under our control. The open space, we handle a lot of that, and since we've now absorbed that from the city, In July of last year, we handle more of that. So most of the public areas, I've got our maintenance does. But by and large, it's the harbor proper that we're the one, that's what we're maintaining, and that's what we're securing, and that's what we'll be talking about tonight. So Harbor Patrol, we'll start with Harbor Patrol, and I'll just kind of go over the presentation, and you've got a copy of it. But Harbor Patrol, they're my staff that's here all day, every day of the year. At any time of the day or night, if there's an issue that I know of, if there's an issue that they come across and need to let me know about, or just an issue that has to be dealt with, it's our Harbor Patrol. So they are always on duty. We are budgeted for 13 patrol officers, 2 harbor sergeants, and 1 harbor captain. And that's aside from our harbor master, Gary, who is the manager, because he also manages maintenance. But the staffing in Harbor Patrol is 13 officers, 2 sergeants, and 1 harbor captain. All of the positions have HAZWOPER training, so all hazardous response training. They all have PC 830, they're all PC 830 or 832 certified. And what that is that they can write citations. Now they can't make arrests, but they can write citations. And a lot of the citations that they write are parking. They can write citations on the water. They can write hazardous material citations, and that's what they do, and this certification allows them to do it. People have asked about Harbor Patrol carrying guns, and I gave a presentation to the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I don't know what the feeling is out there. I know what my feeling is, and that's not under me. It's not going to happen. I don't believe that Harbor Patrol should be carrying guns. They'll never carry guns as long as I'm the director. I don't think that they need to. I came from Long Beach. I spent about 20 years there. And I can say without hesitation, this harbor is so peaceful compared to almost any harbor I know of. And it's proven out in the 10 years I've been here. Really, I kind of monitor the radio, and there aren't a lot of issues here, thankfully. And if the Harbor Patrol, if they need real policing, they can always call the sheriffs or even the city police and get them on the boats. But they shouldn't carry guns, nor will they. Each one of them is U.S. Coast Guard, has a U.S. Coast Guard captain's license. Each one of the officers are EMT certified. And obviously they're able to provide basic life support and use defibrillators. The vessel fleet we have 7 vessels. We've got a 22-foot Boston Whaler, 4 21-foot Boston Whalers, a 27-foot rigid hull inflatable, and we also operate the 39-foot fire rescue vessel, and it's manufactured by CR. And that operation, we run it in conjunction with the county's fire department. If there is a fire, they'll come out, and we'll be the ones that operate it. We know how to operate the boat, obviously, and we also know how to operate the equipment. We'll be the ones that roll, and we could even roll without the fire department, and then they'll get on board wherever wherever they can if we get to a fire. But we do run it with the fire department, and they actually fund half of the boat. But it's good to know that there is a fireboat in the harbor when needed, and that our guys will operate it in conjunction with the fire department. So the main objective of Harbor Patrol is rescue. We're out here, and that's why I think that it's valuable that we have a 24/7 operation, because we're available, over a 911 call or over radio from another safety agency, that we handle rescue, and that is our primary objective. We also we'll go out there and we'll talk to groups and school classes about public boating education, public safety, and law enforcement. So all of those things are handled by our Harbor Patrol. As I said, if it requires a police officer, we'll normally call a policing agency and get them involved as well. But other than that, we do handle all of that. So our primary area of responsibility, as I indicated, is the harbor. And we do go outside the harbor. We essentially handle calls a mile out, a mile north, and a mile south of the entrance to the harbor. And we'll even go further out than that if needed. If there's a call and there really is something in distress, we'll go out further. But we will patrol from a mile south of the channel opening, a mile north of the channel opening, and we'll go out a mile. I mean, so that whole area as well as the harbor. That is our area patrol, our area responsibility. So the services we perform, the Harbor Patrol performs, is we're first in emergency services for all aquatic rescues within our area of responsibility. Now, those services include medical emergencies, basic life support, on-water firefighting, removal of hazards to navigation, pollution response, vessels in distress, whether they're sinking, aground, near surf, or adrift. Radio watch, so they're monitoring the radio at all times. I mean, everybody with a vessel, I'm sure a lot of you have one, or have been on boats, you know that the channels that they use, and we are monitoring them all the time, and flow plans. If our boats are going to be cruising, they'll give us a flow plan so we'll know where they are. So that's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of areas that we handle, and I know without a doubt that we've got about 2,000 boats here in the harbor. Without a doubt, they feel a lot better knowing that our harbor patrol's here and supporting them. Operations, we operate, as I said, 2 county-owned marinas, the commercial fishing marina and the small boat marina. We operate the Fisherman's Wharf hoist, that's a commercial hoist. We do a lot of sea urchin fishing or sea urchin gathering, and they come and use that hoist. And then the docks adjacent to the Cisco's fishing landing, those are our docks. We manage a liveaboard program and provide liveaboard inspections. So what happens is that all liveaboards in any of the marinas, even the private marinas or the leased marinas, they need to know and let us know what liveaboards are in those marinas. If there's a belief that there may be an illegal liveaboard, our officers will do an investigation. They'll go out and check it out during the night, see if this person's on board. So they'll investigate whether somebody's living aboard illegally. And that's a big challenge for marinas because there's a lot of sneak-aboards. It's a relatively inexpensive way to live. And it's something in the marina world we always fight, and that's people that live aboard their boat illegally. Because they've got nowhere else to stay, or they just figure it's a cheap way to live. And I know in Long Beach we had long waiting lists for live aboard, so people who wanted to live aboard legally, they weren't up on the list, so they just did it illegally, and we just had to constantly be vigilant and chasing them. The Harbor Patrol issues all commercial and special activity permits. So everything we do out there, whether it's car shows or the big events that we handle, everything is under a permit, and it's Harbor Patrol. They're the ones monitoring them in the water and on land. Every time there's barricades that need to be set up or they need to monitor it over the weekend, it'll be Harbor Patrol that does it. We do weather reporting and display weather advisories. Every morning I'm in my office pretty early every morning, and I hear these guys, they check out what it is, what the swell is, what the water temperature is, what the wind is. They'll report it, and we'll have that information available for boaters. They handle marine mammal and birds, whether they're found live or dead. We're the ones that will handle them, and ordinarily we'll call in rescue organizations and see what happened, and or try to rescue them if they're still alive. But they're the ones that deal with it. We control loss or abandoned property. Handle citizen complaints. Again, there are police force, for lack of a better word. Navigational aids that are out there. We don't maintain navigational aids, but we check and make sure they're working and make sure they're where they should be, that they're anchored properly, and then we notify the regulatory agencies. Normally the Coast Guard is handling the navigational aid if there's a problem. They issue guest slips for cruising boaters. And they handle parking enforcement. And parking enforcement's a big thing. We've got a lot of public parking lots, and what we need to do, what our guys do, and this is the value of having them there 24 hours a day, is that nobody's allowed to park overnight unless they're out fishing, or and we know when that's the case. But you'll see people that'll come and either park cars and leave them there or stay in their cars. And so we need to be vigilant in managing and patrolling those parking lots and make sure that that doesn't get out of hand. The Harbor Patrol handles our seasonal lifeguards. So we're the ones that guard the beaches, Hollywood Beach, Silver Strand, and the beaches within the harbor. So the lifeguards are under our Harbor Patrol unit, and we handle a junior lifeguard program, which is a very popular program. We about close to 300 kids a summer go through it. It's a fantastic program. They come in, they do a lot of running, a lot of swimming, they learn lifeguarding, and a lot of those junior lifeguards come, and their first job is actually being our seasonal lifeguards in our, they get employed permanently during the summer and become our regular lifeguards. Great program for young adults, and then the lifeguarding, I've met a lot of them. I met a lot of them my first summer last summer. Great kids, really, really great kids with a great attitude. We partner with a lot of other agencies, Ventura County Fire, Ventura County Sheriffs, Oxnard Fire, Oxnard Police, U.S. Coast Guard, California Fish and Wildlife, and Homeland Security. We're linked in with all of the security forces that are in the area, whether they're state or local. We work as a team. They know us, we know them, and we're in constant contact with them. And we all together make sure that the harbor and the adjacent waterfront is safe for everybody. So maintenance. Now Harbor Patrol, as I said, they're staffed with 13 and 3 supervisors, or 2 supervisors and a captain. Our maintenance crew, and I apologize, I don't know the number, 7, 6, what is our maintenance crew?
2 supervisors and 6 maintenance workers.
Okay, so 8, yeah. 6 and 2. So eight individuals, and I am amazed at how much our maintenance crew does, how varied their workload is, and how professional they are, and how many different disciplines they can handle. And I've dealt with a lot of maintenance crews in all of my career. Whether it was down in Long Beach or up running the resorts up at the lakes out of Paso Robles, these guys can kind of handle everything. They can do a lot of discipline, and it just never ceases to amaze me what they do. Their responsibilities, they conduct routine inspections of all harbor facilities and equipment. Again, mainly the public, but we also assist our lessees if we need to. They perform preventative maintenance. They handle basic and high-end level repairs and maintenance, and they repair machines, equipment, or structures as necessary. So they're out there, they're looking to see that everything's functioning, everything's oiled and running, and honestly, anything that needs repair, these guys can repair it. So, like I said, the disciplines that they handle, a long list. I mean, they do electrical work, they can do welding work, concrete work, tile work, brickwork, framing, metal fabrication, plumbing, irrigation, tractor operation. They groom the beaches, they paint, they do all types of landscaping, asphalt repair, striping of parking lots, and dock construction and maintenance. I mean, it's just a wide list of what the needs are here in the harbor, and they just do it all. And here's some pictures of things they do. I mean, this is our equipment, the tractors, the lifts. Dock maintenance itself is its own discipline, and yet our guys are not only maintaining and repairing docks, they're doing everything on the land as well. The beach, from the beach's perspective, so what we do is the harbor itself is funded from harbor revenues. We also, because the beach areas are unincorporated county property, we maintain the beaches even though they're not part of the harbor, and the county's general fund pays us to do it. We get about $600,000 a year to maintain and to guard. They pay for the lifeguards to guard the beaches. So even though the beaches aren't really part of the harbor, we are maintaining them. And a big part of that's keeping the sand clean. We've got a barber surf rake, and it's used to clean off the sand. It goes and it rakes the sand and cleans up the debris. It's a conveyor type system. It sifts the debris from the beaches and then levels the sand, grooms the beach for a fresh, clean appearance. Trash service on both beaches, Hollywood, Silver Strand, and our own beaches, Kitty Beach. And then large debris is cleaned up and disposed of. I get a weekly maintenance report, and it struck me about a month ago. I looked at it and said, oh yeah, we picked 47 tires off the beach. I said, tires? Well, apparently they come right down the river, they float over, and they end up on our beach, tires. Tires that are disposed of in the rivers end up on our beach, and just a big item that we have to deal with. Fire pits, people have come out there and make their own fires. We clean that up. And that picture in the middle is an example of what the beach looks like after a storm season. We had, as you know, a tremendous amount of storms this winter, and it definitely challenged our maintenance crew. And every time I go on the beaches or look at the beaches, they're pristine. It's amazing how clean they keep them. And then before every summer, we put our lifeguard stands out. In fact, I think we're doing that now, or we just finished that.
Yeah, we're doing
So we're doing it now, getting ready for the summer. We don't keep them out on the beach all winter. We store them and then we put them out every summer. And the easements between the homes in the beach residential areas, as if you live around there, you know what the sand does. It blows into those easement areas, and it's our responsibility to clean them out. Now, what you may not know, which is interesting, is that if there's sand in the easements in between the houses, that's our responsibility. Once it hits the street, we can't touch it. Now it's the Public Works Department, the city's Public Works Department, right? Oh, it is county, still county. But we can't touch it because now it's on a street, and there may be hazardous materials mixed in. So we can't move the sand once it hits the street. We can only take the sand from the easements and put it back on the beach, which is interesting. It's not something everybody knows. 4th of July, well actually all the holidays, but in particular the 4th of July. Here's an example or some pictures of our guys and what the area looks like after the 4th of July. Now that grass that's along Harbor Boulevard, right? It's not too green. It'll be green this year. We were playing catch up last year, but it'll definitely be some good looking grass this year. But after the 4th of July, as you know, we just get inundated on the 4th of July, and we get all our guys out there. In fact, even my office staff gets out there with pickers the 5th of July and try to get it as clean as we can, as soon as we can. But it's a challenge. I mean, there's a lot of people that come out for the 4th of July, and good. I mean, I like seeing people out here, but we just have to deal with the mess on the back end, and it's a pretty decent challenge. Landscaping, we do all the tree trimming throughout the harbor. Normally what we'll do is hire a company that'll use lifts. Well, no, we hire the lifts and we trim ourselves for the most part. Sometimes if we have a big job, we'll hire it out. But our guys will go up and rent lifts and we'll do the tree trimming. We plant planters. We maintain irrigation systems. We do weed abatement. One thing that's happening in the county as we speak is there's a big push to not use Roundup, and almost every agency, at least in California, if not the country, starting to determine whether they should outlaw the use of Roundup, and we're looking at that with the county too. The problem is the stuff works. I mean, it works really good, but there was a study that said it might be carcinogenic and cause cancer, and I think the jury's still out on that. But I know we as a county are looking at it. We have stopped using Roundup, which makes weeding a little bit more of a challenge because there's really nothing that we found that's as effective as Roundup. But we're doing the best we can, and we stopped using Roundup 2 years ago, I think. So we're not using Roundup, and I think the county's moving to not use it. But it does make weeding a little bit more challenging because it is an effective application. We do emergency repairs. I don't know if any of you saw that upper left picture. That was a car that came off the entrance to the bridge and down the embankment here along Harbor Boulevard, took out a light standard, and we repaired that light standard. That's an example. And we did electrical, concrete, and welding to get that light standard back, and we did it all ourselves. Another emergency repair that our guys are very proud of is we had one of the stringers underneath the urchin dock over by Fisherman's Wharf actually split in half. That upper left picture shows it. Split in half along the length of it. And we had to determine how to do it, whether we had to rebuild it. And Seraphin came up with an idea that if we could just push it up, strap it, that would fix it. And so we closed the dock and we did it. We were underneath the dock. We jacked it up to push it up into place and worked from above and below, strapped it in and repaired it. Another example of an emergency repair, a pretty significant, because there's vehicles, trucks that drive on that wharf, and we were able to handle it with our own guys. Tractor operation, we do it ourselves. You can see the barge operation. We run our own vessel, our own work vessel. Again, just our guys are extremely valuable, extremely versatile, and they get a lot done. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I attended the Channel Islands Neighborhood Council on January 31st and talked about what's happening with Harbor Patrol back in the north area of the harbor, which we call the Oxnard Waterways, but it's that area that's north of the bridge. And what's happened, I'll give you a little bit of history. So what's happened is that the county has provided Harbor Patrol for that area of the harbor historically. And in 1976, as you probably know better than me, that Mandalay Bay was the first residential area built north of the bridge. And in 1976, as part of the 1963 annexation agreement, the county agreed to provide Harbor Patrol services to Mandalay Bay, to that part of Mandalay Bay that was built at the time, at no cost. And that was done as an amendment to the 1963 agreement. It was done in 1976. When Westport was going to be developed, the county at the time said, well, if you want Harbor Patrol, we need to get into an agreement that Harbor Patrol will service Westport, and ultimately developed a memorandum of understanding where the Westport residents would pay for Harbor Patrol services through the city. They pay the city would pay us, the city of Oxnard. And the agreement was $135,000 that was going to escalate 2% every year. And that was the agreement that was signed in 2000. Then when Seabridge went to get developed, the same thing happened. The county said, well, if you're going to want Harbor Patrol services, then let's get an MOU together and to cover the Harbor Patrol services. But in the Seabridge agreement, what it called for was that Seabridge would have to pay for 3 officers, 1 sergeant, 2 boats, and a vehicle. And they agreed to it. And that was, and then every 5 years, the 2 vessels in the vehicle would be replaced. And that's what the agreement was. And what happened was that the cost to Seabridge, the Seabridge residents, recognized that they sat down and said, well, we're paying the lion's share of the cost for the Harbor Patrol services. And they were right, they were. And so what they ultimately did was they brought an initiative onto the ballot last November to reduce the amount they paid to the city for the county for Harbor Patrol services down to the same level that Westport was paying. And it passed, as you would imagine it would. So what happened was the city notified us that we were going to get less money, and they shorted our payment of what we had billed them by over $500,000 this year. And so we sat down and said, well, we can't do the service for that. And the city asked us if we would develop a proposal for Harbor Patrol services, and that's exactly what I did. And this was all happening around the end of last year, the beginning of this year. So this is a city map, and again, you probably know as well as I do, or better than I do, what areas we're talking about. So the blue area is the Channel Islands Harbor, that's south of the bridge. And then the purple is Mandalay Bay, the yellow is Seabridge, the green is Westport, and the orange is Harbor Island. So the city actually looked at how much acreage each one of these areas was, and we found that, oh, I'm sorry, let me go back. So we found that the entire area was 309 acres, of which the Channel Islands Harbor, the harbor south of the bridge, was 55% of that, or 170 acres. And these were numbers, you know, the acreage behind the bridge or north of the bridge is given to me by the city, and we just measured out the harbor itself. So I looked at the budget, and this is the budget for our harbor patrol. The budget is $2.68 million for staff costs, and that's fully loaded staff costs with training and all their equipment. Non-staff operating costs, that's mainly the equipment, another $1.327 million. So our total direct costs were a little bit over $4 million. If I added a 20% overhead factor on it, it took our costs for the harbor patrol operation by itself to a little over $4.8 million. So we looked at how we would allocate that, and the first thing I looked at was acreage. And so as I said, 55% of the area that we were covering was ours, Channel Islands Harbor, and the other 45% was the Oxnard waterways, those 4 residential areas combined. So I said, if I take our $4.8 million and segregate it by 50, you know, by that percentage of 55-45, then we would be responsible for $2,645,000, and we would look for the city or for the residents to pay almost $2.2 million. And at the time, what we had billed last year was about $1.1 million. And I said, well, that, you know, that's obviously, we're not going to do that. That's not fair. I don't think it's fair. That's too much to ask, even though the acreage kind of looked that way. That's too much to ask to bill the Oxnard waterways. So I asked my two sergeants. I said, well, you know, what do you guys think? What's the level of effort that we put, you know, on the south side of the bridge versus the north side of the bridge? And they said it was basically 2 to 1. So I said, okay, if we segregate our $4.8 million, you know, 2 to 1, 67% versus 33%, then we would be absorbing a little over $3.2 million and charging the residents or the city nearly $1.6 million. And again, since we'd only billed them about 1.1, I said, well, that's, you know, that's not going to work either. So what I ended up doing was telling the city that what we would do is we would continue to provide the services north of the bridge for $1.2 million. And that really is a discounted rate. If you look at what it really takes us, it's probably about $1.4, $1.5 million. So I thought, well, you know, I think 1.2 is a good number. It's a little less than 25% of the total cost of harbor patrol. And that was the proposal I gave to the city, and the city gave to the residents. And that's a proposal that's still on the table. And I know it sounds like a big number. Again, I made this presentation to the Channel Islands Neighborhood Council. And I know it sounds like a big number. And I thought about it. I said, well, I wonder what that would equate down to per residence in the north of the bridge. And I think there's about 1,880 residents. So when we did the division, it was about $53 per month per resident. And when I gave this presentation, and I'll say it again, I get the fact that there are residences back there that are, you know, big, multi-million-dollar, huge homes with a lot of dock space, and there are residents back there that are studio apartments or studio condos. So I get it. So I don't think that it's fair that every one of them should pay the same amount. I understand that. But it's really not up to me to determine how, if we proceed with this, how that $1.2 million is segregated. But I do believe it's a fair proposal. It's still a proposal on the table. So the way it's playing out is that the money that Seabridge ended up giving us in this fiscal year essentially ran out. It ran out at the beginning of February. So what we did is we closed the Seabridge substation, which we used to staff out of there. And really, it was more like a storefront. I mean, from my perspective, I think our guys, when they're on duty, should be on the water. They're getting paid to patrol, they should patrol. So the Seabridge substation was more like just a physical place, kind of like a storefront or a storefront presence. And we did earlier, actually last month, we stopped handling everything but emergency in Seabridge, but we are still handling emergencies in Seabridge. Now the other two, Mandalay Bay and Westport, their contract's a little bit different in that those can be terminated only at the end of a calendar year. And so we will be servicing full service Mandalay Bay and Westport until the end of the calendar year. I hope, well before then, we'll strike a deal through the city with, to determine a way that we can, provide service through the entire area. But if not, then that will be the end of our service to Mandalay Bay and Westport. Everybody knows it. I've been out front with it. I've talked to the Channel Islands Neighborhood Council. I've talked to representatives from Seabridge. Everybody knows where we are on this. I don't know what the city's going to do, because quite frankly, if we pull out, it's going to become a city responsibility. I don't know if they're prepared to handle that. I know they have a sheriff or a police boat back there, and I hope they're looking at it along the lines of, hey, if the county doesn't do it, how is it going to be done? But that's where we are, and like I said, I have high hopes that we can make something happen there. I do still believe it's a fair number, and I hope. I mean, it makes no sense that one unit won't be securing the entire waterways, but it's got to be done, and we've got to get funded for it. So honestly, that ends our presentation. I know it's shorter than the other ones, but as I said, I enjoyed it more because I love to brag about my staff. But I will answer any questions that you have. What we will do, last time if you were here, we tried to pass the microphone around and it kind of got a little crazy. So I prefer if you stand up and grab the mic or come to the stand, just so I'm only